one of the statistics that we have says that 87% of peer-reviewed studies on social, emotional, and psychological development show homeschool students perform significantly better than those in conventional schools.
Yeah.
Welcome to the good life.
What is up, everybody? What's up? What's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Good Life Visual Audio Podcast. I'm half of your host, right? I'm C Muzan. Coach Kabi is coming in. A little technical difficulty. He's coming in though. But for now, we didn't want to leave you waiting too long. We wanted to make sure that we still jumped on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, anybody that's checking in, tuning in. Thank you for checking in. Thank you for tuning in. We definitely appreciate it here on The Good Life. We appreciate everybody that's been supporting. Whether you're watching this live right now, whether you're catching this on the replay on YouTube or in our Facebook group, we appreciate you. If you have not yet joined our Facebook group, please go ahead, head over to Facebook. Yeah, the link right there is on the bottom of your screen, but dive over there into Facebook, search out The Good Life, and join our Facebook group. We got a lot of good stuff going on over there. Kabi and I have been doing some monthly workshops where we're giving you the blueprint around health and wealth. We've been dropping more content over there. That is our community for you to get more one-on-one answers, more time with Kabi and myself to really, again, dive into all the aspects of the good life that you are working on, specifically in your health and wealth. So again, go ahead, jump over there on Facebook. If you're watching us again on LinkedIn or YouTube, feel free to leave some comments here in the chat. Feel free to engage with us. We always enjoy having the conversations with you. We always enjoy the feedback. We always enjoy your thoughts, your questions, comments, concerns, whatever you got. We love it. We want to enjoy. We enjoy having the conversation with you. Because again, we do this for you guys. Obviously, this is episode 121. So 121 weeks of us sitting here and having conversations around specifically health and wealth. Those of you that have been joining us for a longer time here on the podcast, you know, we were talking relationships, we were talking mindset. There are a lot of components to the good life that we are sharing with you. And through these 120 plus episodes, we've been giving you gems and bits of information along the way to help you really piece together the life that you want, the life that you deserve, right? Today's topic, we were going to dive into something that's important for anybody that's a parent or anybody that has a child that is of schooling age, or looks to have a child, right? Eventually, at some point, we're going to have the conversation today around homeschooling, and kind of taking a look to see, like, is homeschooling like the solution for this next generation? What are some of the things that we're seeing out there? What are some of the pros and cons? We want to be able to have the conversation with you guys so you can see maybe there's some other options, alternatives, resources for you if this is something top of mind. I'll start with it. For me, this topic came up because Kabi and I, right, we're having the conversation, and obviously some of you guys know this. Me and my wife are homeschooling, or right, continuing to have the strategy to homeschool our child until she's out of school, right? And so because of that, we actually we go through the process of learning the homeschooling system and, right, understanding how to get her educated, but we have a clear vision of what we want out of her education. And I think that's kind of a big part of this conversation. Let's bring Coach in over here. He's on mute. He's a little late to the party, but right. He's here.
Should have never left you.
man. Listen, I got to get in front of the whole team here and issue my apologies here as the QB on the team. Listen, I left y'all hanging. I could make excuses, but I'm going to take this one on the chin like the Boston Celtics. And, perhaps one day we'll come back and correct the culture here and we'll win the championship, unlike the Philadelphia 76ers.
Listen,
we got my coach. Brother, thanks for holding it down. I'm here on the court. I'm ready to go. Pass me in. Put me in.
You are benched for a little. Thank you. You'll come in the second half. Just sit there and
oh man,
get all stretched out.
Fair enough. I'm gonna ride the bike. I'm gonna look serious. I'm gonna cheer hard. I'm gonna speak up.
That's right. That's right.
I'm gonna get the water bottles.
Be a good team player, man. Like you should have played. Just bring the water, man. Just bring the water when we need the water.
I'll do what I gotta do. You're right. This one right here, I'm wrong.
Anyways, you didn't miss too much. I was given the audience the quick synopsis of like why we're doing the good life, of like what's happening here and why we're doing this and why this is important. Talking about the foundations of health, how to build on it, how to get to designing that life that we don't need to break from, and how important it is for people to engage with us and jump on Facebook and jump on YouTube and talk to us and
get in the group.
That's right. Get in the Facebook group, get in the community, have the conversation, because these conversations are needed. But today's show, we're diving into homeschooling. We're talking about this as a topic of kind of what's on the rise, like what's on the horizon for people, and why is this homeschooling conversation important? Is it something we should be paying attention to in our current education system? Is this just another, I don't know, thing people are trying to run to? Let's talk about it, man. Let's talk.
Well, I think this is a very interesting topic. Obviously, you are a parent. I am, not a parent yet, but
I thought it was happening on the show. I was like, it's happening. If
there isn't an announcement, perhaps it should be on this show. We would do a special like LeBron going to South Beach.
Oh, you should.
Maybe we'll do one of those crazy, weird. What do they call it? Gender
reveals.
You've seen some wild ones, honestly. But
wait, time out. I'll let you. I saw a funny I saw a gender reveal where the baby, like the sibling or whatever, was supposed to pop the balloon with the scissors. She didn't pop the balloon. She cut the balloon ribbon, and the balloon flew.
Oh no! Where's that uncle that shoots it down?
I know, right? Nobody was there. Everyone was just looking at her. She had no idea what happened. She thought it was all great and gravy. So
the funniest are the ones that don't work out. I don't know if that says something about human nature or my nature. But this is a very important topic and an interesting one, because I think it's one that's, I don't know, there's a lot of misconceptions out there. I don't necessarily know the truth, but I like to engage in a little bit of, rhetoric, a little bit of back and forth here, a little bit of community conversation around it, and kind of look at the stuff, right? Where this is interesting for me is coming from the background of a teacher. As you know, I taught high school history, and obviously, we've all been students, so we know kind of that side of things. But looking at it from that perspective, there's a lot of pros of like school, of organized school, being in community, being around people your age that you can sort of bond with. I think it's a lot of bonding stuff, right? That's what I'll really point to. And maybe other opportunities like to play sports, right? It's a little bit harder to organize sports if you don't go to a structured school, or even maybe like competitions or things of that nature. Those are just simply there's a structure for that. But in terms of actual learning, I'm not sure how much actual learning happens in school that's super beneficial, in the sense of, people always talk, well, kids have to read and write. Well, that is true. That's very, very true. I agree. However, it doesn't take that long to learn to read and write.
That's right.
You know, like
That's right.
I feel like actually it's a lot easier when you're working with a kid one-on-one because they avoid a whole lot of, let's say, embarrassments, right? Or that's where a lot of our stories come from our childhood, right? Or things like that. You can teach a kid where they are based on their level, their skill level, how to read and write and do all those things pretty quickly. There's a lot of school when you take a pie graph is actually just like kids doing things that are quote unquote boring, like changing in between classes, sitting down and listening to lectures, like doing things that aren't necessarily that beneficial. So when it's kind of like the work week, the work day, right? How beneficial are you really, or how productive are you really? It's probably like 4 hours or less of your 8 hours that you're there,
Mhm.
right? It's the same thing here. And so, what else could the kid be doing with all of that extra time? That's number one. Number two, and I'll toss this back to you to get your thoughts on this, is school, in a way, kind of separates the family the same way that the job separates the family, right? It
Yep.
takes
Yep.
the kid out of the home so that they spend a lot more time bonding with their teachers, their classmates, more than they spend with the family. I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. I'm saying it's weakened the family structure in a way because kids don't really, they see their dad, they're back when they're leaving for work. And, when they come in and maybe eat dinner, we don't typically even do that anymore,
Mhm.
running around all types of different places. And I think hugely that's a huge consideration when you put it on the scale. So I don't know. Let me get your thoughts on that. Those are the two things that come to mind for me.
No, man, I resonate with both of those two things. I have a lot of thoughts on homeschooling because, again, as I preface, right, like me and my wife are actively homeschooling our daughter, right? Like the goal as of 2023, right? Like when we're recording this, because I leave myself room to change, right? My
That's right. That's
opinions and
right.
all those
Smart
things,
man.
right? But like the goal of right now is to keep our daughter out of the traditional education system, K through 12, right? And just have her educated, right? Whether that be at home or right, whatever that means, but like not in the traditional education system for
Hmm.
those couple of reasons.
Hmm.
One, the two that you said, I'll piggyback on, right? One, reading, writing, arithmetic. Like that's it. That's exactly what a child needs to know in order to become a functioning adult with as far as like reading things, writing things, and being able to do basic math. That's it. Right. And so from that point, what like all the other stuff that we're doing at school, sure, has some value, finds out kind of, what it is that like, or, if you prefer reading up things in history versus doing art, right? Sure, you get to test some things and kind of learn. But in general, reading, writing, arithmetic, you can get that. And I believe that that is the important parts of schooling. The second part of like the socialization part, because that is, I know you said you want to touch on some of the myths, one of the big, or the rhetoric that's out there, one of the big pieces of rhetoric that's out there is like, well, how will they get their social, how will they get their social experience, how will they have friends? All the kids I knew growing up in that were homeschooled were weirdos, right? Like, how's your child not going to be a weirdo? Right, this is all the pushback that we get when we tell
This is so
people,
true.
yeah, that we're homeschooling. And here's what I always say: the thesis is you can separate education from socialization, right? Like you can separate learning, like reading, writing, arithmetic, from learning social skills, EQ, learning how to make friends, doing all those things. Those things can be separate. In our society, and this goes to your second point, in our society, in our community, right? In the way that this was built, school kind of is just like a place where, like, because parents have to work, we've chosen to drop our kids off for 7 hours somewhere. And that's just the system. It's like, well, I got to be at work at a certain time. So school's now going to be this 8 to 4 p.m. type of deal that works around my lifestyle because I have to go work, right? I have to drop my kid off because I have to go do other things or whatever the case is. But just like you said, all those 8 hours or 7 hours in school is not all learning. It's not even that they're really doing all school type stuff. They're around, they're in a building. And that teaches people how to be more of an employee, right? We talked something off camera and we said like, hey, the school system isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it's meant to do. Right. And the school system is meant to what? Create factory workers, create a generation of people that put their head down and they work and they know how to work in that factory employee like setting. That's how the education system was designed. And it's doing that. It's causing people to come out of school, put their head down and just do tasks and do work. And I think that indoctrination starts early in school from things like you're in second grade and you get dropped off at a place and you got to sit there for 8 hours. You don't want to be there for 8 hours. You might only want to be there for 2, but you're stuck there. That, as an adult, I believe leads into employee mindset. It's also why a lot of entrepreneurs weren't good at school. They weren't good at the structure of it because it doesn't lend itself to the artistry, the creativity, the right fluidity of life. Doesn't always do that when you're in the structure. So I agree with those couple points. And again, I just think there's a lot of indoctrination that comes in. And I don't think that it means that our kids are coming out smarter. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure it's saying that they're not coming out smarter, right? I think we had some facts, we had some statistics on it. One of the statistics that we have says that 87% of peer-reviewed studies on social, emotional, and psychological development show homeschool students perform significantly better than those in conventional schools.
Yeah.
87% of all these studies on social, emotional, and psychological learning all say that homeschooled children performed better in those areas outside, right? Like you can learn so much more. And I've seen this done too. Like you can learn so much more when you don't have this structure of this 8-hour block or 7-hour block or right these blocks of time. And I think that's one of the things that is leaning people towards homeschooling, right? Is there's just so many more benefits, I believe, to that side that we're just not exploring. And times are changing. Because times are changing, I think we have to obviously change with the times in our education system. One of those things that needs some changing.
It definitely needs some changing. And to your point, in terms of what they're teaching, you mentioned reading, writing, and arithmetics, and that's it. I would actually add, it's the stuff that they're focused on wrong things and not focused enough on the right things, right? So reading, writing, and arithmetics, I mean, we're doing that. I don't know by what age, but like pretty early on, you get pretty much all you need for functioning through life for the most part, right?
For sure. My daughter basically learned how to read in 6 months.
So in 6 months, right? So I would add, what about teaching folks about truly how to take care of themselves health-wise, teaching them how to handle their finances, teaching them how to start a business, teaching them how to handle stress, right? So the things that actually are maybe teaching them, technical skills that they can actually leverage.
That's right.
So we're not doing those things. And in those 8 hours, so what are all this extra stuff that they're doing? And it really comes down to making good citizens, right? Classes like civics, right? Teaching them a ton of information that's been memorized to make them good citizens, so they're proud, right? Of, you must know about America, etc., or wherever you live, not just America, wherever you live, and whatever story they've chosen to tell you, you must know that because it'll make you a good patriot, right? So there's a lot of culturalization. There's a lot of indoctrination. There's a lot of, and we don't say those things in terms of like it all always has to be some sort of, I hate the term, so I'm not even going to say it, but some sort of theory, right? But this is actually what is happening. We all pledge allegiance. We all, it's keeping folks in line. And I like to reference a book that I think really does a great job of breaking this down, and it's called "Dumbing Us Down" by John Taylor Gatto. Right, and there's 3 or I believe 7 rules that he talks about in like the first or second chapter that really kind of sum up a lot of this stuff that I found really interesting when we were deciding to do this topic. So number 1 there is he says, and this is an award-winning teacher from New York, and he wrote this book about essentially our education system and what his experience has been in spending years and years in the system and winning awards in the system and teaching kids, and what he notices. Number 1 is that our education system, all right, or schooling system, he separates education from schooling. Those are not the same thing, right? Educating and schooling are not the same thing.
That's good.
Schooling confuses students by making them remember a ton of information that's not always useful. Right. Schooling teaches students to accept their class affiliation. All right, stay in line. It makes them indifferent as to like this. I learn all this stuff. I don't really. None of it really seems to ever really matter.
Yeah.
Right. It will matter one day. Right, in college or when you do the X, Y, and Z, about how much.
It's true that I was going to say that indifference comes probably in a bunch of different forms, right? Like, again, I parallel a lot to this to like job life. Again, I just think they go hand in hand, right? Like what happens at school and what happens at a job. Imagine you're the student, worker, whatever, right? And you see other people not doing their work and not excelling, and nothing happens to them. That's what happens. That's indifference in a school setting. When Johnny and Timmy and Sally are all cheating and they're all dumb and they never get caught, and you see them every day and the teacher never does anything, you're like, oh, this is how it works?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yep.
Same thing. Same thing at the job when you're at the Amazon warehouse and you're throwing boxes and you see Johnny taking a smoke break every 5 seconds. And you're like, why am I breaking my back? And Johnny's out back all the time. I'm not throwing these boxes. Indifference. That's really what it is.
So true. So true. It also teaches them it also makes them emotionally and intellectually dependent, right? Continuously being spoon-fed in both areas. It teaches them a kind of self-confidence that requires constant confirmation by experts. This one I found really interesting based on a lot of the stuff that we talk about. And like, do not abdicate your responsibility over your health and your money to so-called experts, but we're actually taught to do that and conditioned to do that through the school system.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly where we learn it from too, right? That's why you can't question authority. You can't question the teacher. You can't, right? They just give you the information. They are the authority, and you start taking information that way. The entrepreneur, the person that thinks, the person that's more entrepreneurial minded is always asking the question, well, why? Like, why is that way? How can we do that better? Like, why has it got to be like that? Right.
And I think that's often why we see that successful entrepreneurs are those that step off the path or step off the conveyor belt are those that also had issues in schooling.
That's right.
We see it over and over and over again, and it's interesting. We point them out, but we use them as the examples, right? It's funny, we're in school using these individuals as the examples of success, and they're the ones that bucked or questioned or stepped off the schooling path. How does that make sense?
That's right. That's right.
Thomas Edison hated school. Albert Einstein hated school.
Right.
Like, wait a second. Aristotle hated teachers. Wait a second.
That's right. That's right. Like, we use them as examples, but we're not taking the clues from their success. Yeah. And again, this is not saying that everybody doesn't need to go to school or like no one needs school or whatever the case is, right? This is that we have to be aware and have other options to what may develop the traits or the characteristics or the skill sets in our children that actually will make them performing, thriving members of society. We have let the school system kind of do that for our children. and believe we're in a place where we got to take that back, right? Take control of that again and say, yes, teacher, educator, whatever it is, you can handle a couple of these subjects because that's what you do well. We'll handle all the rest of this stuff, right? And I think, yeah, back to again, back to the point.
Mr. Muzon, I'd actually push back a little bit. Not that you're wrong. I actually agree with you, but I'm going to add to the point in which you're making. I don't think parents have let schools step in. I believe they are forced. I believe that it's actually harder to counter the power of the government's control over your child's education. And when you do that, you face a lot of pushback in terms of both, government wise and also socially. You had mentioned earlier in the show, kind of a little bit of stigma attached to being a homeschool kid.
Mhm.
Right. So we've been conditioned on such a level that we police ourselves almost. Right. Oh wow, your kid is homeschooled. Oh,
Mhm.
okay. Oh,
Mhm.
did you know they're homeschooled? Right. So stuff like that. Right. And
Yeah.
I think that's very difficult. The last one, if I may,
Yeah.
of Mr. John Taylor Gatto's book and 7 pieces that he spoke on when he won his prize as the top educator in New York of the year.
In New York.
It makes that schooling system makes it clear to students that they cannot hide because they're always being supervised. We're watching. We're watching. We got you, right? And that's what's going on. And in terms of pushing back, man, we have some of the states that are very, very tough on homeschool regulation, right? You will not be surprised to hear at the top of the pack is our favorite state. The one you don't want to be like. Don't show this example to your kids. The great but not so great state of Pennsylvania.
Shut up,
Right.
Pennsylvania.
So Pennsylvania. We have others like Vermont, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island that make it worse, but at the top of the pack is good old PA.
I wonder how PA made it to the top of that list of like, what's it? Hardest, strictest homeschooling rules, regulations. Is that what this is?
Yeah, something like that. Highest regulations, highest number of rules, I would assume.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
no coincidence that it's a lot of Northeast schools, right? Or a lot of Northeast states, right? The Northeast, we
Love to control the mind of the
yeah.
youth.
Shut up. Sticklers for education, right? We got some good schools out this way, right?
For schooling, not
For
education.
schooling, yeah, for schooling.
All right, they're known for that. They love it.
Yeah, but I also think that because of that, like that's where there's a lot of pushback. Like even though the regulations are high, there's a lot of pushback in the Northeast states of like how the school system runs and what our children are learning and all those types of things.
As in the parents pushback?
Yeah, parents pushing back.
They kind of have to. They're facing more regulation.
Yeah, and trying to but these are like homeschool regulations because I feel like these states want you to keep your kids in the school.
Absolutely,
like that's the key, right? They want you to keep them there. So
absolutely. We don't want kids to fall through the factory line cracks. All right, we want them. We want to stamp our approved programming into them.
yeah.
All right, and the other piece that's really interesting too is like how much school actually kills creative thinking and kills ingenuity and kills creativity and kills enthusiasm for learning, right? It's so crazy. So I mean, kids come out with less of a desire to learn, less of a desire to seek, less of a desire to do pretty much anything but just what is the easiest thing I need to do so that life doesn't beat me up. And life, in this case, being the schooling system, doesn't just beat me up. Problem. My parents are on me. The school is on me. My classmates are on me. Everybody is on me. Right? They have no sense of like identity, no sense of who they are, what they enjoy, what they're actually good at. Right? They're being told all of that, and I think it's really limiting, the quality of life that our children are living, and you might attribute these buildings to youth penitentiaries,
Hmm.
right? Youth penitentiaries in which with a little bit nicer food, right? But I'm the old, as you know, I'm the oldest of five of my siblings. I go every time I go back, I forget. I'm like, man, this school thing is like intense. You know what I mean? You're getting up at like 6 a.m. Like you're not back home till like 5. You got sports after. I mean, you come back, you do all this homework, you do it 5 days. I
It's
mean,
wild.
goodness gracious, what are we doing?
It's
Like,
wild.
why is it so serious?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a really good question, man. Like, I wonder what that really does. I wonder if there's some studies on this one. Like, what does that do
What
to
does what exactly?
like a rigorous school schedule? Let's just say high school, like, middle school through high school. If from sixth grade to 12th grade, you're up at 6 a.m. heading to school, right? Well, let's just take high school, right? You're up at 6 a.m. You're getting to school, you're getting the books, you're studying, you're playing the sport, you're socializing, you're doing the thing, you're playing sports afterwards, you're in the club, you get home, you do your homework, you go to sleep, you
In the
wake up.
club.
No, like I meant like the Glee Club, bro. Not like not like the
I mean,
partying club.
the
I'm
way you
just saying,
just dropped it in the club and
because
it
I'm
just
just
kept
saying,
moving. It was
not everybody's in a sport, right? So some people do like clubs,
got it,
like
got it,
you got the whatever you do.
got it, got it, got it. Glee
But
club.
either way, you do the after school thing, whatever that is, sports, activity, art, a club type of thing. Um, and then you go home and you do a little bit of the homework, a little bit of the socialization. You play on a video game if your parents let you. You eat a little dinner, right? You
If you have
jump
time
if you have time, and then you go to sleep and do it all again. I
at like
want
3 a.m. or
I,
2 a.m.
yeah, I wonder what that does for the child, like as they grow into adulthood. Is that like getting them prepared of like, oh, this is what it's like to have a busy schedule? Is that slowing them down? Because once like they think this is so tough, now they don't want to do anything when they get out. Is the alternative being someone has a less rigorous schedule as a 10th grader? Like you show up at 10 a.m. and right, you get your work done and you still might have sports, but like you don't have homework, and like you're 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. is just yours. And then you wake up and you kind of have a leisurely day again. How does that one play out for the child that grows into an adult? Like, are they now lazier in life because they didn't have the same structure? Or are they now want to be busier because now they have all the stamina and they know what to do and they want to go do it? So I'm always curious, like how that plays out. I don't know if there's studies or around that. Like,
Well, you got to pick your standards and you got to pick your rubric, if you will, right? For me, if I look at the rubric of what it takes to have a healthy human being, I would say that no, this absolutely destroys them. They have no sense of stillness,
mhm,
right? So it's there's a meditation or any of that stuff. None of that there. They're lucky if they're getting good food in the school, right? Those are usually private schools, etc. They're lucky if you're getting a good amount of sun because they're usually in the classroom when the sun is really out, and when they come out, they're going from stiff to like do a little bit of activity and who knows what happens there, right? They're under constant stress. They're not getting enough sleep. They're probably not drinking enough water.
mhm,
There's a lot of stuff that's going on there. They definitely don't have any time to again explore any sort of innate or um, innate sort of skill sets or curiosities or any sort of that nature. So yeah, you're raising trained rats to put
mhm,
into the rat race, and that is what's happening. You're molding them that is what you're going to expect in terms of when you graduate into the work field. But nobody ever tells you that, hey, you could probably use the most powerful machine ever created right here to find a way to generate yourself the type of living that you're trying to get without the school system. They don't want to tell you that.
that's right.
Right. So, I mean, does it make them lazier? Of course, it makes them lazy. I mean, I can't tell you how many kids are burnt out,
Mhm,
coming from the teacher perspective and also from the perspective of I do some mentorship, etc. But just seeing students coming out of college just like burnt out first few years, burnt like,
Yeah.
and then they go into more and more of this, into this lifestyle. What do we say? Health is a lifestyle. When we look at this, the lifestyle, we're actually starting earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier, right?
Mhm.
When adults say, be a kid, what are they really saying? They're saying don't do any of this stuff that we have to do in the world. So of course it's not good,
Right.
right? And I think sometimes people mistaken being mentally stimulated in a particular way, right? Whether it be with work or whatever it is, or being busy so they
Mhm.
don't have to think about their problems, as like, oh, this is good.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm not saying it's bad, but to think that, to be just going all the time and busy all the time and whatever, and like, oh, I'm doing intellect, I hear this, I'm doing intellectually stimulating work. Okay. Right.
Got
I
it.
got it. Great. Great. I'm sure you are. I also hear you on days where you can barely breathe and you're taking Adderall just to finish your work, and you're on two, three, 4, 5 cups of coffee. Yeah, I'm
Right.
sure that's great for you. Right.
Right.
No, it's not. No, it's not. All right. And we all carry this narrative around, or a lot of corporate athletes, as we talk about here on the show, carry this narrative around, but really they're burning the candle at both ends, right? When you
Mhm.
take a lot of adrenal gland issues, all right, because they're just constantly pumping, 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 So
Mhm.
yeah, no, it's not good for us to start the kids out younger. We should be trying to break that cycle.
Mhm.
And kudos to you for taking the steps, because I think math, reading, writing, business, health, money. I mean, those are the things that we should be teaching, them to actually beat the system, not just be part of the system.
That's right. That's right. Because before there was a system like we know it, the industrial complex, right? Like with, warehouses and all of that. Before that, children got reading, writing, arithmetic. They dropped out of school at 10. They worked in their parents' business because
Yeah.
you were just grooming your child to be good for your family. That's all there was no system to put them in. There was nothing to be like, oh, like this is going to make you a good citizen. No, this is going to make you good for our family, Johnny, because you know how to milk this
Leave
cow.
Johnny alone.
I like Johnny.
Enough.
You are going to milk this cow, Johnny. So, like, this is what I need you to do really well. I need you to know your way around this barn and this stable and this cow machine, like, whatever. Like, I need you to know how to do this. Reading, writing, arithmetic. Get your ass on this farm. like, that's all it was. So, there was no, like, I'm sending you off so you can go off and be a great person in the world and da da da, which is what we think school will do for us, right? It's like, oh, you can go get a degree and be well read and have a lot of friends and all this stuff to go off. And it's like, that's not what we necessarily need you to go off and do anymore. Maybe that was it, but like now it's a little bit different. I would like, again, my personal parenting opinion. I want my child to be well versed in the things that she needs as a skill set. Anything that's memorization, she doesn't need to know it, right? She can just always Google it, look it up, figure that out, right? She'll probably have a calculator for her entire life. So there's even some things in trigonometry that she's not going to need to know, right? Because she'll have a calculator, a Texas Instrument calculator. I don't know. They'll still have some of those. But anyway, right? There's limited information. And then, like you said, adding on some of the life skills, if it's the health side of things, the finance side of things, the business side of things. What I'm really big on is the EQ side of things, the emotional intelligence side. The how do you handle stress? How do you handle your anxieties? How do you put names to these things earlier? How do you learn how to deal with these things earlier? How do you talk them through community? Like, how do you show empathy? How do you notice someone else is sad? Like, I want to groom, and for me and my wife, groom our child to like understand how to become a functioning adult in society. And it's more than just the work that they do, right? It's the value that they provide. So the skill set that they create. If we can identify in her talent, if every child this is one of the downsides, like you said, or I think it was in the topics of the education system, that teaches them a kind of self-confidence that requires constant confirmation by experts. Well, the reason is because they don't feel like an expert in anything, because you didn't identify what they were good at. Like if I constantly tell my daughter, you're really good at that, man, that's something you're really good at, man, do you like doing that, man, you're really good at that. Over the years, she's going to have her own self-confidence where she doesn't need anyone to tell her she's good at that thing. She's already going to know it, that she's good at that thing. And if we can train and we can educate a child or get them to the place where they identify their gifts very early and practice those things, and then we give them the EQ, the emotional intelligence, the how to like handle your emotions, then that, in my opinion, is a winning combination for a person that can handle society, that can handle their life, that can handle the ups and downs and what gets thrown their direction. It's not just about work. It's about the skill set, the things that they have that they can provide. If that means they choose to give their skill set to an employer, so be it. Like, I'm not going to be like, my daughter she can never have a job. She's only going to be an entrepreneur. I mean, in all honesty, I hope she becomes an entrepreneur. Like, I hope she does. But if that's not what she's cut out to do, and she's just a great employee for somebody, then I hope she's identified her talent and skill set and knows her value with that company, knows her value in that place, because she's learned that, versus using that company to validate who she is, using her title to validate who she is,
That
right?
part.
It's the opposite. And so I think all this stuff starts early. Give them the skill set, give them the information, or identify their talent, then give them the EQ, give them the emotional intelligence side of things, and then they can go off and be a superstar at 15, 16, 17, right? Think of all those kids that like were way ahead of their time, right? Back in the day, people used to graduate high school at like 15. We used to hear stuff like that, right? Because like you're smarter. My mom was I think my mom graduated high school at 16, right? She said she got skipped 2 grades. And I asked her that. I was like, Mom, where do they still do that? Like, do they still skip people's grades? Like, is there some I don't know if they do, in all honesty. This was a real question. I was like, is there some 13-year-old that a teacher's like, oh, they definitely should be in 11th grade now? Like, I don't know that happens as much.
I don't have a sense of that, but
Yeah.
to your point, and that goes back to point number two, which is teaches them to accept their class affiliation.
Mm.
All right. So yeah, to your point, I think that's huge. But I think this is a family by family decision. We've talked about a lot of pros and cons. As long as you're aware, because that's really what we're about, is bringing awareness to this, talking into the details a little bit, because I don't hear too many people that are talking about this. There's just the assumption that you have kids, you put them in school, and you go to work, right? So if we can question some of these things at least a little bit, that might be the right situation for your family. But just knowing there are other options, it's not necessarily as difficult as we might think it is, and there are some benefits to it that might be worth considering. Something, and I'll end on this, and then I'll turn it back to you. And I'm shoot, I think we're pretty much done for the show here. If we
Yeah.
can just grasp this piece. For me, I think a piece of it is also comes down to designing a life you don't need a break from, right? I
Mhm.
would rather have my family unit, including my child, learning and us having the time, the financial capability because we manage our money correctly, the health because we manage our health correctly, the education, schooling piece because we took it into our control, and we're maybe still learning the reading, writing, and arithmetic, whatever else they need to know, but also maybe traveling the world a little bit,
That's right.
right? Maybe getting some experiential knowledge, maybe getting some apprenticeships, maybe getting to move around a little bit and actually explore, and teaching them to roam and learn and collect information and engage with the world in that way, and also bringing their contribution to the table as well, to be a contribution to the world. So I think that's what this episode kind of really brings to mind. And you know what? I'll leave you guys with that little drip game right there and let it sip.
You're back to the bench, sir. You came in late off the bench. You threw up some bricks at the end here. A few Hail Marys. You're back.
What are you talking about? That was gold. That was gold.
No,
Ladies and gentlemen, drop in the chat just breaks, just the break emoji if you think that was gold. Gold bars.
We're not gonna get many of those in the chat, but it's all good. It's all good. Again, we're kind of shooting from the same spot here on this topic.
Wow.
What? We're shooting from the same spot here. On this topic, I think we're in alignment that homeschooling can definitely give our children, the future generations, some more options to develop into, I don't know, the ideal people, the ideal, people that we're trying to raise, right? Again, you hit the nail on the head with it's about designing the life that you don't need a break from. And I already hear people in the comments or people that would watch this that say, my life is not set up that way, right? I have a job. I can't homeschool. Homeschooling is expensive. I can't find somebody. I can't not work. Single parent household, right? 2 working parents in the household. One of them can't quit the job, right? Maybe you don't have the patience for it. I'm sure there's a ton of things that come up for people as to why homeschooling may not work for them. Here's a statistic that I'll leave you with. Just saw that homeschooling, right? The number of families that are homeschooling has doubled in the school year of 2021-2022, last school year. It went to 3.1 million student families have kids that are being homeschooled. So that number doubled since the previous year. I know over the pandemic created a bunch of opportunities for parents specifically to see this might be better for our family unit if we bring our education in-house. Some people probably tried cyber school or whatever the case is, but there is power in saying, you know what, we're going to bring the education in-house. We are going to teach our children exactly what they need. We're going to give them all of the different areas that a school curriculum will most likely not give. We will give them direct one-on-one energy and attention so we can identify their skills, their learning styles, their behavior earlier rather than later. A lot of those things that we talked about that we had on that list of the reasons why the school system, right, is failing our kids or what it's doing to them, right, we won't have to worry about. There's so many benefits. But yes, it takes a level of, in all honesty, financial stability in order to do that. It takes a level of being in a solid enough financial place, making the decision to say this is what we want to do, and then again crafting lifestyle around that decision. And so, if there's something by us having this homeschooling conversation that you're saying, hey, you know what, this might be something I want to explore more, or this could be something that's good for my family, because I want you to say it in that way and not just, oh, we can't afford it, or I have a job, it's not set up that way. I really want you to think about how could you make this happen? What could happen? And I would say if you start with looking at your finances and figuring out, okay, can we get to a place where we consolidate some of these costs, we move some of these things around? If we move this education, our children's education, up the priority list, do it a little bit differently, we may have the money to be able to do it, or we may need to figure out creatively in our financial life how to make this an option. But don't just stick with the status quo, guys. That's why we talk about this here on the podcast, right? This is the good life. It's not about just having the average life. It's having a good life, the great life. So you're going to have to do some things differently, some things outside of the box. You're going to have to think of some things differently. We want you to know that these are options, and homeschooling definitely in the education side is one of those options that we think everybody should explore. I personally think you should explore.
Wow.
I think everybody should explore this option because I believe the children are our future.
Ooh.
Teach them well and let them lead the way.
That's right. Oh,
You
okay.
see that? You see
Yeah,
that?
I see what you did there, brother.
see
Hey,
that?
listen, I'll give you your credit. I'll give you your credit. That last note was good. The rest
You
was
like that?
trash, but that last note right
That's
there
okay.
was good.
It only takes
Good.
one note. It only
That's
takes
it.
one note to
That's
get
it.
people to pay attention.
That's
Hey,
right. That's right.
hey.
Listen, before we start to hit you with some more falsettos here, let's let you go. Really something to look at, and something to look at before you have to make the decision.
Mhm.
Right. So have those conversations. Take a look at this. Grab the book, and you know, elevate your awareness.
Mhm.
And from that point, you can make the best decision for yourself and your family. Join the group as we continue to go ahead and provide value in the group, in the Facebook group that's at the bottom of the screen there. Make sure that you do that. Until next time, though,
Mhm.
we are your brothers from another mother, your uncles behind the board, coming here to drop some knowledge, and I hope you are on board. Ooh! All right, listen. Peace.
Later, y'all.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Good Life. We hope you found our discussion helpful and inspiring.
If you enjoy this episode, please take a moment to subscribe and like our channel. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an episode.
We want to hear from you, our listeners. If you have any feedback or suggestions for future episodes, please leave us a comment down below.
If you're listening to the podcast audio version, we appreciate you just as much. Thank you for tuning into the Good Life Show. And be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss an episode.
We believe that everyone has the potential to live their best life, and we hope our show helps you get that one step closer to achieving your goal.
If you know someone who would benefit from our show, please share it with them. And thank you for your continued support.
So again, that's it for another week's episode here on The Good Life. We'll see you next week for another inspiring conversation.